I'm Claire and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be testing 10 fragrances from 10 hyped brands. These are all things that I am mostly experiencing the brand for the first time as well with, and I just really want to see whether I'm seeing what other people are seeing with these fragrances. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire. I talk all about fragrance. I talk about perfume science, perfume history, perfume psychology, and I also just do these straight perfume reviews as well, house overviews, and also fun perfume tags. So if you are interested and you haven't already done so, then please do consider subscribing, and please also press the like button if you do enjoy this kind of content. So I just want to say before I start that these samples were gifted to me by another channel, so by Cassandra, who runs the Skin Sense for Fuss Pots channel. So if you haven't seen Cassandra's channel, please do go check her out. She is based in the UK and she loves to talk about affordable fragrances. She talks about new releases, she samples an awful lot of fragrances, and she does her perfumes of the week kind of tray video as well. If you are interested, then please do go check out Cassandra's channel. I will leave it linked down in the description box. So let's get on with this. What's the first fragrance? So number one is Jasmin Freak by Room 1015. So I've clearly lived under a rock these last few years because Room 1015 have had some huge hits and I haven't tried anything from the brand so far. So this is my first experience of Room 1015. So this fragrance, the thing that struck me when I first smelt it was just how not jasmine this fragrance is. It's mainly tuberose and ylang ylang to me rather than jasmine. Of course there's jasmine there, but it's really backseat to those two other florals, and the ylang ylang makes this super fruity, super bright, super tropical feeling. It's a very kind of summery feeling, happy feeling fragrance, and it's also very, very sweet. It's quite loud in the opening, but it quickly dries down a little bit and gets much, much quieter into the mid. The mid section was really my favourite because the blackcurrant popped slightly. Not for very long. It wasn't really sort of something that was very strong either. I would like to see the blackcurrant slightly stronger, but I really like that aspect of this fragrance. I also did like the dry down, but it did seem to fade quite quickly on me. So it's actually a musky and cashmeran laden dry down alongside the remnants of mainly the tuberose and the ylang ylang. I think this one, I can totally see why there's been love for it. It is just so happy feeling, so bright. But for me, it's a bit sweet. I think this one for me is a like, not a love. I think I've just, as a fan of sunny tropical floral fragrances, I've just tried a lot in this kind of genre. But I can totally see why it's had some love. And yeah, I do think this one's good. So that's a like from me for Jasmin Freak by Room 1015. So the next fragrance is from Maison Crivelli. So Maison Crivelli are a brand that I've tried in store a few times with a few fragrances, but I've never tried this fragrance before. So this one is called Iris Malikhan. So this is one of those irisy, powdery, huggy kinds of fragrances. This one is really lovely in the opening. It has this really big orris hit alongside some galbanum, and that gives this a really nice yellowy green kind of feeling to it. It's powdery, it's dense, but it's not overwhelming. Also here is mastic, and mastic is something that unless you smelt it, I cannot describe it to you. It's sort of almost it's more of a texture to me than anything else, and it's got this kind of dryness, but it's also a little bit vegetal. It's quite airy, dry, and even a little bit tobacco-y at points. It's one of those powder makeup dropped in a suede handbag kind of fragrances. One of those more savoury feeling, irisy kind of fragrances. In the dry down, you get a mild, smoky, almost suedey, leathery kind of smell alongside a bittersweet green vanilla. I really like the opening of this because of the texture, and sadly in the dry down, a lot of that texture becomes a little bit lost. As with all Maison Crivelli fragrances that I've tried, I do find this one to be quite strong and to last a very long time. I often feel like Maison Crivelli fragrances are room fillers. They're things that are quite nuclear mainly. This one I would say is on the quieter side for Maison Crivelli, but it still is a very long-lasting fragrance. I think for this note profile, this is actually quite loud. So this fragrance did make me think of other iris, orris and mastic fragrances that I've tried, other green vanilla fragrances that I've tried. The one that sprung to mind immediately was Vanille Camouflage by Dries van Noten. They're completely not the same fragrance, but this one did have elements that reminded me of that fragrance. I can also see some parallels with fragrances like Memo Italian Leather. I think with Italian Leather, I feel like the leather there is very raw and very green, and that's not something that I sense as much in this one. Also with Italian Leather, it's more golden feeling with the vanilla, whereas this is a more yellowy green vanilla. So yes, with this one, I really like the opening of this, and I really like that kind of tobacco-y part as well, and all the texture. But in the dry down, it just felt less interesting to me. I think, again, this is a like, not a love. It's definitely my favourite so far from Maison Crivelli though. So that's Iris Malikhan. So the next fragrance is one from Milano Fragranze, which is a house that I absolutely love and I've tried a lot from, but I've not tried this one. So I already own Basilica by Milano Fragranze, and this brand I just generally get along with. So this fragrance is called Panettone, and I think this one's been out quite a while and it's definitely had a lot of hype, a lot of attention on YouTube, so I was really intrigued to try this one. So Panettone is a fragrance that I would best describe as smelling much like Yankee Candle's Christmas Eve scent. If you've smelt that, that's pretty much this fragrance if you haven't tried this one. So to me, this is mainly about candied fruits and booze. It's also about the ginger in the opening. The ginger makes this very warm and inviting, and because of that, it smells incredibly Christmassy to me. I'm someone who loves Panettone, and one of my first boyfriends had Italian relatives, and that's really my first experience of Panettone. And I can totally see Panettone in this fragrance, but I think perhaps the doughiness is not quite as front and centre as I might have expected. But actually, I think this fragrance is so delicious that I don't necessarily care about that. I think this one is a fragrance that I can definitely see myself having a travel size of because it's just so gorgeous. I think this fragrance as well is something that I can see myself wearing even year round, because I think in the summertime, this might make you think of something like sangria. It's definitely got that fruitiness, and it's definitely got that booziness that you get with sangria. I think as well with this fragrance, the thing I love about it is that it's gourmand without being super sugary, without being super synthetic in the dry down, because I find a lot of really super realistic gourmands start off really beautiful and then they dry down into a bit of a mess. This one I find beautiful all the way through, and yeah, really impressed with Panettone by Milano Fragranze. So the next fragrance is from a brand that I actually own a bottle of. So I've got Imperial Emerald from Merchant of Venice, and this one's called Andalusian Soul. So Andalusian Soul is really quite unusual. It opens with a honeyed floral feeling. The honey here is golden and it's rich, and it's really just part of the flowers. You feel like a bee kind of drunk on honey with this fragrance. The florals are also quite buttery and rich. Quickly, there's something that smells boozy, and there's also this kind of vanillic buttercream aspect to this fragrance. It's a really rich feeling fragrance overall. It's not thick, but it's definitely got a presence to it, and it's really quite strong as well, this one. It's very different. It's boozy, it's warm, it's yellow feeling vanilla, and it's just got this lovely buttery honey floral too. This one lasted really well on me. I could still smell it after about 5-6 hours, and it was very strong to begin with. So yeah, that's Andalusian Soul by Merchant of Venice. Definitely a thumbs up from me. So the next fragrance is from a brand I don't think I've tried anything from before, and they're called Sora Dora. So this fragrance is Jany? I think it's Jany because there's no E. So this fragrance opens with something that I can only describe as smelling like a banana pancake. Inexplicably, I get bananas from this fragrance, and I've got no clue why, because it's not listed in the notes, but that's really what I smell, bananas, banana pancakes. After a few seconds, I get a bit of cinnamon, it gets a little bit more caramelised. The caramel is very much more a hard caramel, something crackable almost to me. And there's also some vanilla, and there's also some nuts, and the nuts give this a really nice texture. This actually feels quite doughy to me, very much like a thicker pancake rather than a thinner pancake as it starts to dry down. As this dries down, it goes through a few stages, but ultimately you're left with a powdery cinnamon and a very light feeling caramel alongside a Play-Doh-like vanilla. So I think with this one, you just have to be super into gourmands, and this just isn't ticking my gourmand box. I think I'm just a bit of a picky person when it comes to that genre of fragrance. and this one perhaps isn't me, but I did really appreciate that kind of banana start. I thought that was really interesting and a very realistic banana, even if it wasn't intentioned. I think, though, I can see why people would really love this, because it does have that kind of sticky sweet aspect. And if you are looking for a pancake-like fragrance that makes you think of all the flavours that you might find on a pancake, this is definitely the fragrance for you. So that's Sora Dora Jany. So the next fragrance is from a brand called Narcotica, which is a brand I've not tried anything from before, and this fragrance is called Happy Dust. So I will agree that this is definitely a dusty fragrance. This is a very dense, very heavily powdered fragrance. And actually, before I even sprayed it, I do this with every fragrance that I try. I always smell it from the nozzle first, just to check that there's nothing completely offensive before I put it on my skin. And with this one, I got a real strong whiff of fish. And usually that means there's matcha in a fragrance. And sure enough, when I looked at the notes, there's matcha. So the good news with this one is that as soon as I sprayed it, I didn't actually get anything fishy after the alcohol had evaporated. So after a few seconds, that fishiness was gone. But if you also get fishiness with matcha, just be aware of that. And I don't think it's an issue, basically, with this fragrance, is what I'm saying. So this one, it's a dense powdery fragrance. And to me, it makes me think of like almonds and heliotrope and that kind of sweet, powdery aspect of fragrance, but I think it's probably the tonka in this fragrance that's making me think of those. This is just a very sweet, vanillic cloud of a fragrance. And it's also got a slightly coconutty aspect to me, but it's quite subtle. I didn't get any fruitiness from this. It's just really sweet, really powdery, really dense. To me, this is just a bit much. I don't think I'd want to smell this for any length of time. I just found it a bit too cloying on me. But I can definitely see that some people would absolutely love this. So that's Narcotica Happy Dust. So the next fragrance is from Dries and Durga, and it's called Steamed Rainbow. I don't think I've tried anything else from Dries and Durga. So this is a strange experience of a fragrance, and I had no clue what to expect from a fragrance called Steamed Rainbow. But when I sprayed it on, really I was none the wiser. So really the only thing I can actually make out as a note is some bitter citrus at the beginning, and actually that flows all the way through, but it definitely lessens into the dry down. So bitter citrus, and then it transforms into this slightly metallic, ozonic, quite harsh feeling fragrance. It actually makes me think of bathroom cleaners actually in the mid. Then it dries down into this slightly musty, woody kind of smell alongside a bit of a strange, slight greenness. This fragrance actually makes me think of the aroma chemicals that I kind of sensed in some Who is Elijah fragrances. I don't know whether they're using the same base, perhaps their fragrances or something like that, but there's definitely some overlap with that brand. And for that reason, and for the reason that if you watch my Who is Elijah review, you will realise that I didn't particularly enjoy those fragrances. I also don't enjoy Steamed Rainbow, but I do think that this has that really odd feeling to it that is that thunderstorm smell. And I think that might be perhaps what they're going for in this fragrance, because it is ozonic, it is kind of metallic smelling, and it is that green sappiness that you might smell after it's rained. This fragrance is one of those fragrances that just makes me wonder, who is their audience? Who are they aiming to market this to? Because it's not a pleasant experience to me, but maybe I'm just a minority. Let me know if you tried Steamed Rainbow and what you thought of it. So yeah, that's Dries and Durga's Steamed Rainbow. So the next fragrance is from Infinement Coty. So I'm assuming that's an offshoot of the normal Coty brand, but I don't really know much about it. Perhaps it's some kind of look back over their catalogue, maybe relaunching of older fragrances. I'm not sure. Anyway, this fragrance is called Trois Amours. So Trois Amours is based around jasmine. It's quite a simple fragrance. There's not too much to say about it, but basically opens very sunny and tropical feeling, very bright feeling florals again. So there's some jasmine. It's grandiflorum, not sambac, so it's more of a laid back jasmine rather than a super sultry kind of jasmine. It's a very clean, non-indolic kind of feeling jasmine, almost verging on soapy. And then there's this really bright feeling banana-y aspect to this, which could very well be some form of ylang ylang. It dries down quite rich and thick and musky, but really it's mainly the jasmine. I think this fragrance is just a little bit underwhelming to me. It's pleasant, but I think the jasmine here is quite dull. But I also think that banana-y aspect here is quite odd, and I don't feel it fits with the style of the fragrance. This to me makes me think of an elevated version of Daisy Wild. Daisy Wild I just find a little bit more fun and interesting because it's got that weird banana-y bubblegum opening. But this just feels a little bit of a well-trodden path. So yeah, this one not for me, but it is likeable. So that's Trois Amours by Infinement Coty. So the next fragrance is from a brand called Cirque du Soleil, and this one's called L'Eau de Parfum. So I hadn't ever heard of this fragrance, but very cool bottle. It looks almost like, I don't know, the Chrysler Building in New York or something. It's very distinctive, isn't it? Anyway, this fragrance is super gourmand. It's a sweet, buttery, caramelised popcorn smell. More caramelised and buttery in the opening than anything else. And it's quite airy still, despite the heavy sounding notes. It dries down a bit creamier, but also caramelised alongside an airy feeling of sugar and vanilla. Sadly for me, the best bit, the buttery popcorn smell, is lost after only a few minutes. I think this fragrance had me at hello and it lost me very quickly because the dry down was just a bit disappointing compared with the beautiful buttery opening. I think for me this would get a little bit tiresome after a while, but I can see someone being taken by the opening of this because I definitely was. So this one, not for me. It's a mild like. It's L'Eau de Parfum by Cirque du Soleil. So this last fragrance is from a brand that I said in my New Year's resolutions, I think, that I was going to try this brand. I think in a video last December I was talking about trying this brand and how much I wanted to try this brand. And actually I have tried this brand in store, I've just not actually got samples of it to try at home. But I haven't tried this fragrance. So this one is called Orchid K, or I've heard some people say Orchid Car, but surely if they were meaning for you to say it in French, they call it Orchid Car, not Orchid Car. I'm not sure, anyway. So Orchid K, this fragrance is just pure ambroxan. There's nothing else to say. I was so looking forward to this one from the notes. And I've only tried 2 other LK fragrances that I can actually remember how they smell. And I remember one of them smelled a little bit like Givenchy L'Entité Rouge, but slightly more elevated version of L'Entité Rouge. And the other one smelled a little bit like L'Impératrice, but a more elevated version of L'Impératrice. So I was kind of seeing a theme of this brand maybe taking inspiration from other fragrances slightly with some of their offerings. I can't say for all of their offerings. So when I looked at the notes of this one, I was thinking, oh, maybe this is Love Don't Be Shy, but in a kind of with a bit of a twist. But the twist for me here is this is just ambroxan or ambrofix, the Givaudan trademarked version of ambroxan. Yeah, disappointing. I just can't. I can't bring myself to spray this on my skin a third time. I just can't. So there may be other things to discover in this fragrance, but I have to admit I've only tested this one twice because it was so something that I just cannot stand. This is a definite no for me. So that's Ella K, Orchid K. You know, at times I do wonder whether I'm unusual in the fact that I can smell ambroxan and whether I can smell other aroma chemicals, because sometimes when I smell things like that last fragrance, I just think, how is that marketed? How is that actually selling? Because if that's all I can smell in there, then surely there must be other people out there where that's all they can smell. But I know that so many people are anosmic to ambroxan and, you know, related chemicals. So maybe there are a hardcore of people that think that's a delicious fragrance and they can smell the marshmallow and they can smell the other notes that are listed and they can fully enjoy that fragrance. But yeah, it just makes me wonder just what, you know, it makes you think your own personal experience, it must be very different to other people's. And I'm sure it is. but that fragrance really made me think about that. So please do let me know what you think of these fragrances, whether you've tried them or whether you would recommend any other fragrances from these brands for me to try out, whether you think there's something out there that I would far prefer. I'd love to hear your opinions on that. And also, please do press the like button if you have enjoyed this video, and also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And thank you again to Cassandra from Skin Sense for Fuss Pots, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.